Hi, and welcome to another ISOOSI Chat, our regular Tuesday roundtable discussion about search, social, and all things marketing. Sorry we're a little bit late today, but we've just been having a bit of a natter in the green room. I'm Carlos Fernandez, president of ISOOSI, and today we're going to be discussing how to attract links before you've actually earned a reputation. So who better to invite as a super special guest in today's chat than Debra Mastaler? And for some of our members and small business owners who watch our broadcasts and who are not in the search marketing field and immersed in it every day, Debra is one of the very top folks I think of when it comes to knowledge about the subject of link building. And from Fairfax Station, Virginia, Debra is the owner of LinkSpiel and president of Alliance Link, a link building consultancy. But I could literally go on for another half an hour if I were to mention all her contributions that she's done to the industry.
Well, go on, that gives us all a break.
where she writes her community management of SEO book. So rather than me tell you, I'm going to ask her to kind of condense 14 years of awesomeness into a little introduction. Debra?
Thank you, Carlos. That's awfully nice. I have had a link building firm called Alliance Link since 2000. I came into this kind of oddly. I had a organic food directory that I started, and it took off. And once it took off and started ranking well, people were asking me how I got it to rank that way, and I said, I don't know. I was just doing the marketing things that I had always done. I had come off of a stint of 20 years working with Anheuser-Busch and working with the federal government for a few years. And so in the marketing department of AB, I had learned many things, and I applied what I learned on my directory, and it just sort of ranked really well. And in those days, there was a site online called mothernature.com. I don't think it's around anymore. And when I started ranking above Mother Nature came banging on my door and said, how'd you do that? And so I wasn't really sure, so I went looking for information about online marketing, and that's when I met Jill. I met Jill Whalen and Heather Lloyd Martin, and the two of them kind of guided me initially with what it was that I was doing. And Jill offered me a job, and I worked for her for a couple of years just to get it underneath my belt and to understand the whole concept of SEO. And then in early, or I guess it was late 2001, I launched Alliance Link. I started doing it for other people. And one thing after that led to another, and I went to my first SES in 2002 and started speaking in 2003, and things just kind of snowballed, from there. I am going to retire Alliance Link. The link building firm is going to take a break, and I'm going to focus all of my energies on the LinkSpiel, which is the blog I started years ago, and it is going to kind of take over, if you will, and kind of work it from there. It's with the designer right now still. Being redesigned and having some things updated on it. So I'm also the moderator over at SEO Book for link building, which I have been for, I don't know, 4 years now, I guess, with that whole crew. Can't say enough good about that forum. And I'm also a member of the SEO Dojo that's owned by Dave Harry and Crowd, and Terry Van Horn, also another really great group of folks. So been really fortunate in this industry through the years. I have met and made some wonderful people like you see here, and have some of my dearest friends are in this business. I still enjoy it. I'm still motivated by it. I tell you that there are some days that I just want to scream at my monitor, but I think that would be in any industry or any business. And I don't think that anything is dead or dying. I think it's just cocooning, and there's a metamorphosis going on, and a new butterfly is going to come out soon. But yeah, I still enjoy it. I don't build as many links one-on-one like I used to anymore. My job has changed a little bit, and some new things will come out when the LinkSpiel hits finally. But I still think, and I still love the challenge of link building. So
cool.
There you have it.
And it's my fault. I forgot to introduce the rest of our amazing panel as well. Amon Jones, resident ISOOSI expert, Bill Slawski, Director of Search at GoFish, and we also are graced with Doc Sheldon today as well, from Intrinsic SEO. So cool, we've got a great panel here. So yeah, I've known about you for a heck of a long time as well. I mean, things have definitely changed over the years. It's like when, you know, when Amon said we were doing this hangout, it's one of those subjects that I've kind of always been a little, you know, played pretty close to my chest for the, I don't know, 15, 16 years I've been doing, you know, work for clients. You've always been one of the people I've always looked to who kind of, you know, embraced what, you know, the skill of link building. You know, a lot of SEOs kind of like myself, you know, it was like, you know, I felt like I was coming to one of these, you know, alcoholic kind of, yeah, I used to be a link builder, and you know, I've been reformed for 3 years. Well, you know, I was a link builder. Maybe I'm a link attractor now, but you know, it's still, it's like you say, it's the challenge of ranking, whatever you want to call it. And some things work, some things don't work anymore. You know, there's been a heck of a lot of change going on. But the one thing that used to inspire me so much was how you weren't afraid to kind of, you know, put it out there as kind of, you know, this is what you did, and it works if you do it the right way, and focus on quality links, and, you know, do the research to try to get those links. And again, you know, kudos to you to have been doing it for such a long time, and to the level that you've done. Sorry.
I'll say the last thing again because you fuzzled in and fuzzled out.
He was just calling me in, and yeah, hello everyone. I must admit, I've got one thing in common with Deborah. I once had an organic food directory as well, but
Really?
it was a complete failure because everything was listed under O for organic. It just completely failed.
Oh.
No,
Really?
link building is one of, you know, the absolute fundamentals of getting SEO right. You've got to have links to your site. You've got to have those signals around that people are enjoying what's there, that they are finding it remarkable, that they're finding it worth pointing out to people. But I do think that over the years, there's been a lot of people who, you know, let's face it, that's the area most people got wrong. That was the first place they looked to automate. That was the first place they looked to take shortcuts. And so it was the first area where really the algorithms heavily turned around and bit them in the backside. I know that you know, Bill and I have studied link patents together over the years, and certainly looked at usability of links as well, to get a wider view than just, you know, is this counting for PageRank, which, you know, PageRank, forget that in terms of ranking these days. You know, PageRank is important still as a crawl metric, I find, but for anything else, absolutely pointless. Doc, do you want to jump in and sort of give us a bit of a brief spiel about yourself as well? Because unfortunately, we don't get you on here that often.
Well, I'm Doc Sheldon. The name I go by, my real name is Sheldon Campbell, but I own Intrinsic Value SEO and half of Top Shelf Copy with my partner, and we don't do link building per se. We do link attraction, which, you know, a frog by any other name. But we have never gone out and acquired links. We try to attract them, and if they come, they come. And you know, in the long game, that ends up being better. Most of my link work these days is on the SEO side, doing cleanups for clients that have been penalized. I've been doing an awful lot of forensic work the last year and a half. Thank you very much, Mountain View. So, you know, it's interesting when I look at this panel and attracting links. You know, one of the things that I think about is how do you attract links before you have reputation? You know, the only way you're going to do it until you have reputation is by offering value. And the only way you're going to build reputation is by offering value. So they kind of go hand in hand. And I look at the folks here on the panel. Debra has no problem attracting links to her stuff because she's been offering fantastic value for years. The same with them, and the same with Bill, Carlos too. It's all a matter of building a reputation for credibility and honesty, and turning it into relationships, and then that turns into links. So the two kind of go hand in hand. That's the philosophy we try to approach it from, both for ourselves and for our clients. And sometimes it's a slow start, when the client is new to the game, or maybe they've been around for a few years, but they just haven't built any sort of a real presence. The starting point is sometimes difficult, but if you do it right, it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed already one of the comments has really sort of come up with something that is so important, and it's mentioned that they hope we're going to bring up public relations in building links, and it's the area where SEO and traditional public relations really intersect so completely is link building. A lot of the time you're building links, it's exactly PR that you're trying to do. It's going out and making sure that people who are in the know or who have an audience that you want to attract know about your product and are interested in covering that story and letting their audience know about it. So, Debra, I know that outreach on a one-to-one basis is a bit less of what you're doing these days, but I also know that pretty much a lot of your work over the years could have been completely classed as PR. So would you like to jump in on this one?
In my previous life with Anheuser-Busch, one of my responsibilities was to create content and then take it around to the local and even not so local media stations. And of course, in those days, we were using B-roll, which was on VHS or beta. But the idea here is that news, when it happens in a theme park or within a beer factory or any of the other subsidiaries that Anheuser-Busch owned, unless it was a purchase, typically wasn't a positive thing. Somebody, God forbid, fell out of a roller coaster, or there was an accident someplace or something. So there is a difference between public relations and media relations. And in that regard, the putting out of the fires part of it, if you will, was something I was still involved with because of my managerial position, I guess, within the park or within that aspect of it. But I was really, really supposed to create content. So we were looking for filler. We were looking for fun things that we could tape and send into the TV stations and into the magazines and the newspapers, where that would get picked up all the time. So I was always looking for an angle. I was known as the angle queen because if there was an angle to something, we wanted to find it and make it so that it was something fun that we could sell. Sales is really, whether it comes to media, whether it comes to people, whether it comes to B2B, it doesn't matter. It's all sales, right? It all comes down to sales. So that's kind of where my background came in. And as a result, I learned how to deal with the media. And when you use the word deal, it's not always a positive word. But after a period of years, you know what turns them on, what they don't like, what they look for, how they operate, who's the hierarchy, who makes the decisions, when things run for best visitation, for best viewership. All of those things come into it, and each one of them is different for different avenues. Television is different from print media versus newspaper media versus magazine. So that's kind of what I did. I was always looking for an angle, then we would create the content and spit it out. When I came into this industry out of that one, that was just a natural tie over for me. It just made total sense that if I launched a new category on the site, that I did a press release. If I needed to have an item that we were selling on the site, I went and found somebody who was known for that item. So I don't want to use the word celebrity endorsement, but it's one that everybody understands. So we'll use it as an endorsement. Those types of things are what you use and what you typically think about media and public relations. So from that aspect, everything that I learned and that I did in my old life, I carried over. What has happened with, I think, with that is there's really two levels or playing fields, if you will, online for people. There are those who don't have a site that's media worthy. It's not that there's anything wrong with the site, it just doesn't have any news to it. It just operates. It's a B2B or it's a B2C site, it's a commerce site. It just operates, and so it doesn't always have an opportunity to have something newsworthy on it, in which case people were using, press releases every time a single product or a page was added just for the link. And that's kind of the bad, if you will, or what happened with press releases and why they were devalued. So that was only part of it, though. The other part of it was there were a lot of press release companies who built networks, and they only put the press releases on those networks. And that was another reason why Google and Bing and all the other engines took such a dim view of using press releases to build links, because those links and those releases were put on networks. It's not only just because the news that you put in the press release was shit, but mostly because of the, was bad, but mostly because of the networks. So, when you're looking for media attention, most of the time what people understand or what they feel comfortable doing is doing press releases. And always find and tell people there's so much more that you can do on the site. There's so many more things that you can pull from, and so many angles that you can look at that you can pull media out of and you can get attention for. You just have to be a little bit creative. And I've had people challenge me and say, right, here's my storage in a cloud site, what can you do for me? There are ways to do that. Part of that process, though, means that you have to be aware of who's writing about storage in the cloud online. You have to know who those reporters are, because not every reporter is interested in that stuff. That's a very fine and narrow niche versus, say, somebody who reports about shoes or something that has a much wider appeal. So really finding out who your media person is, who's writing about that, who are the magazines, who are the news sites, who are the blogs, who's making videos. You have to find out who those media influencers are. Once you do, all you have to do is spend about 3 hours reading every single thing that they've ever written or covered, and you will start to see a pattern. A pattern will emerge about what it is that they think is newsworthy. And that's what you can either create your content around, or you can look to take advantage of down the road when something does happen, or when you do have something launched. Then you also have this person that you can go to directly. So if you're looking for easy media links, they ain't gonna happen. The press release thing, I promise you, working with them like I do, when they see these press releases come out all the time and they're just garbage, it's not that you get blacklisted, but you're just ignored pretty much. And so when you do have something newsworthy, it's really hard to get their attention. So the days of the press release giving you links are over, mostly though because of the network situation, which I think that's been really overlooked and underplayed when we talk about press releases. People mostly come up on the idea that that for some reason that as a whole entity has just been discounted. Remember, it's not so much what you do as where you do it that really gets you in trouble. So for that aspect, I think it's a dead. But find out who those people are that are talking about you, that are writing about you, and don't just do local papers, do magazines, do newsletters, go on what's that thing called, Pinterest, go on YouTube. A lot of media folks, for some reason, will spend a lot of time going through YouTube to find content that supports a story that they're trying to do, and I'm not really sure why. So YouTube is also and then they put their content on YouTube. The biggest thing you can do, however, though, is to have a media center on your site. If you are going to be serious about creating news or sharing news, then having a media center on your site with full disclosure about who you are and your resumes online, both personal and professional, they all need to be on there, because if they don't know you at all, that's their first line of checking you out. They go to the site and they check you out on there. So do those things. Put your media center up. Do some homework. Spend some time looking for the influencers and knowing what it is that they're writing about, and then create your media savvy content that you can pitch to them first. And sometimes it's about pitching. Sometimes it's just about putting out press releases. It really depends on the level that you're playing on and the level of your story. If you're getting ready to break the next iPhone, or something like that, obviously you just don't do a press release. All of that is pre-pitched. But if not, if you're a small to medium-sized business and you just have new products, or perhaps you have new category or something else that might be newsworthy, especially if it's geographically focused. If you've opened a new store in Denver, or you've added a new office here or there, adding the geolocation on your media is also extremely helpful for getting it covered by regional news, which typically, once you run something regionally and it gets a little bit of traction, the national guys will come in. You've noticed this, I know you all have noticed this, that when something gets run on one news outlet, it's picked up and rewritten about on many, many other news outlets. So, all you really have to do is get it picked up by one credible news source, and from there it has a tendency to snowball on its own if it's a newsworthy piece. So
Exactly, and it's one of those things that I sometimes help, little local businesses with, and say, yeah, I know. The more local you are, the harder it is in some ways to get big sites to take notice of you, because you only matter to a small community, which isn't a significant part of their user base. But there's always a local paper, there's always a local radio, there's always a local TV, and I always say, court that, because that's actually more valuable to you. Those are geolocational signals to the search engines that you particularly matter in that region, and it will help you massively in your regional search. And it doesn't have to be immense. It's amazing how much you can do. You got a small business, there's 3 or 4 of you in your business. Next Saturday, find something you can do for a local charity, whether it's cleaning the church, whether it's going around doing some deliveries to old people, whatever it is, some little charity thing. Do this for a few weeks, then tell the press you've been doing this and ask them if they'd like to cover it. Once you've been doing it for a few weeks, and you'll be amazed how often that will be picked up. You will get a mention out of it. You will get a link out of it. And not only that, this is the only form of link building you actually feel great about doing, because you've done something good for people in order to build those links. So there's one quick tip for everybody. Do something nice.
You're spot on, Ammon, about that. That's really true, especially like you said for local. Keep in mind that 99% of, because of the way that business and because of the industry has changed with the internet, most papers are owned by conglomerate. So even all of your local newspapers, your city newspapers and all, most of them are owned by conglomerate. So if you get onto one, typically what happens if the story is good, the other ones will pick it up. But it's also in your best interest to find out who that paper is owned by, and then also say, hey, listen, I was featured on, XYZ. Do you feel like it would be good to work it into your news angles as well? So that, that's definitely something to think about when you're looking at working an angle, because you'll get on one of them. They're all owned by somebody anymore, whether it's Hearst or Squibb or someone. They're all owned by big conglomerates. The other thing is that most people do a flat press release, and that means just a text press release. Learn how to use a social media press release. They're press releases that have the text, but also where you can insert a video, you can insert images, you can insert graph work, any types of visual aids, if you will. They are picked up probably 5 times more than just a flat press release, because the media loves pictures. I mean, a picture tells 1,000 words, right? So same thing with video, but every time you do video like that, then you also increase your YouTube channel, which leave your best videos on your site. leave your best videos on your site, and then send everything else over to your YouTube channel. So you get people used to coming to your site first. You want people to come to the site first, and then you want them to go to your YouTube channel. But think about doing social media releases, and if you just sit down on the machine and type in social media releases, all the templates come up. So you'll find them. They're free. You can find them.
Some great information there from Debra and Amon. And I know Amon mentioned local TV and papers and things like that. We've had a lot of great success. I mean, you know, this Hangout's about how to get on that, you know, the ladder of trying to get some reputation or some authority. And you have to just start at the beginning. You know, links are links, and you have, you know, if you can't go and get some high authority links, you know, without paying for them or without you know, doing other things, you've got to start sometimes at the bottom, and that is local. And it's not, you know, we've had a lot of great success with you know, doing events like what Amon said, but getting the local Chamber of Commerce involved. You know, the first thing that we did when we moved our operations from the Caribbean to Florida in 2002 is we joined literally seven Chamber of Commerce, and we joined every single builder industry association and other trade organizations, because all those trades that join these like the building industry associations, they all needed websites, they all needed SEO, and then we just started doing pro bono work for the industry associations, and I'm telling you, that was the one thing that really made it as a new company here in the States. That was the one thing that really that, you know, did well for us, was a lot of local publicity and kind of, like Amon said, charity work and things like that. Can't stress that enough. But and then moving on, once you start, you know, getting that authority, there was, I've got to bring this up because it was one of the things that Dave Naylor said that really struck me, that I really loved, when he says, you know, when he's doing press releases or he's trying to get some notice out there for his clients, he always thinks about it in terms of syndicating up. He's not afraid of trying to get it in front of the people at Guardian or Daily Mail or, you know, some of the bigger publications. True, it has to be, you know, media worthy, but it also has to be packaged in the right way, and it has to be to the right person, and it needs work. So at his agency, I believe he has people, you know, specifically dealing with PR, as we do. And sometimes the challenge for us as an agency comes in where we have to deal with sometimes an outside PR firm that doesn't really get that it all has to be kind of integrated, and tries to help build that equity up online as well. So, yeah. Moving just quickly, you know, it's great to have somebody again on that has been doing links and link building for so long. You know, you'll have kind of seen it all from, you know, the days of demos, directories. It's like, you know, any of these dinosaurs left alive, I'm not too sure, but you know, we've been through guest posting and everything. You know, is there, you know, things that you still look at today that, you know, say a new business came to you today and they've just got a brand new website, and luckily for them, they've not been party to the last 10, 14 years and don't know any of those tactics. What is the, you know, do you still, for example, use paid directories like Yahoo? Do you even bother going over to demos at all? Is there anything from a new website perspective that you can still kind of say, yeah, I do that?
You know, all the stuff that used to work still works, because but it really depends on where you use it more so than what you do. So it's less, again, this is my favorite line, you know, lately, it's not about what you do, it's about where, right? So if and Yahoo is still plus best of the web for me, and I do still try to get into the DMOZ. Those are three places what I call foundational links. I've always broken my link building down into categories. You know, I have content building, we have foundational links, we have media links, and then we have just kind of whatever happens to fall into my lap link is what I call it. But foundational links are those with Yahoo and the directories. I know a lot of people talk about niche directories. I don't spend a lot of time on looking for niche directories. There are not that many good ones out there. There's a handful. Most of them are geographic directories now. They're talking about what you can do, say, in Albuquerque, and it will list, a lot of things. But topically anymore, not so much. The good ones, there's just not that many good ones anymore. So it's kind of like the DMOZ and Best of the Web and Yahoo. You just do them and kind of move on. Know that you have to allocate that money and just move on. Same thing with your geo links. But when people come to me, I kind of have this process, and I say, okay, so let's look at a couple of things here. One, you need to make a decision about your site. Everybody has a sales site, and if you're selling something, there has to be some part of your site that has content on it, whether you want to make it a blog, whether you want to make it an article library, whether you want to make it a news source, whatever turns your baby on. You just have to decide what is your content vehicle and build it out from there. And unlike me, who made a mistake all those years ago, I should never have had a separate blog. I should have had my blog on my site. And I didn't, and I really advocate that you not have a separate blog, unless you have people who can work it and you have the time and the resources. But if you're a smaller to mid-sized guy, your blog should be on your site, and your brand should be that site, because everything and anything you can do, you want to send to the site and build your brand. Having another blog sometimes not always so smart, and I'm the first person to tell you that wasn't the thing to do. But in my day, when all that started, and I know you all know this because you were all back there too, that was what you did, and I was even stupider than the four of you in that I started my blog out on Blogspot. You remember when the link spiel was on the Blogspot? And mostly because I was too damn lazy to do anything else with it. Boy, that was a mistake. So don't do that. And that's my advice. But like I said, if you have multiple people to help you, then that's another story. The other thing is you want to make sure your feeds are working. Your RSS feeds have to work in order to get your information out. So many people don't pay attention to that. They say RSS is dead. No, RSS not dead. And so, make sure your feeds are up and make sure your profiles are up, especially with Bing, with Facebook, having a relationship with Bing, Twitter, and then Google Plus, with Google. So you want to make sure that those three profiles are up, that they're completely built out, and that you have pages up for those particular sites. After that, the thing I always say is, are all your pages working? So many people are like, oh, I'm not getting any links, or it's like your pages don't work. Maybe they're not been indexed. Maybe you forgot to take the no index tag off when you opened up your WordPress blog. You'd be surprised at some of the really basic stuff that people just overlook. Just make sure all your pages are in Google and in Bing, in whatever engine that you're focused on, and that they're working. That's such a huge deal. After that, I do a couple of things. We do the directory thing. That's my very first thing. I always tell people, pay for your directory links. Just get that done, get it out of the way. And then the next thing I do is you need to allocate some money for tools. You got to do it. And for me, I always suggest you sign up for FollowerWonk. FollowerWonk has a free portion and a paid portion. Once you get into it down the road and after you use FollowerWonk for a while, then I would suggest paying for it. But in the beginning, I always say use the free part. That's really what you need to at least get started. There are a lot of link tools out there. There's tons. That look at backlinks, that will help you determine what a link is worth and so on and so forth. For me, I use Majestic and always have. I've been a Majestic fan. So I'm looking at backlinks and just looking at qualities and quantities through Majestic. I also use something called BuzzSumo. It's the word buzz, and the second word is sumo, S-U-M-O, BuzzSumo. I really like this one. It's a free tool. But what it does is it tells me the top content that's out in social media that's been shared most frequently by keyword phrase. Now, that's a big one. That's a big one. If there's some out there that's repeatedly getting hits or repeatedly being shared and liked based on certain phrases, then you need to know that going down the road when you're starting to develop your content and when you're looking for link building partners. So I also sign up for BuzzSumo. I am a huge fan of the Hub Finder tool on the SEO book suite of tools. I like to know what the search engines, who's linking most frequently by search engine, and it's what's called a co-citation tool. Without going into a lot of time, if I compare two sites and I notice that both sites have a set of links from a certain number of websites, that really interests me from an algorithmic standpoint. I'm really interested to know what those sites are and what's on those sites and what their social backgrounds are and who is linking to them, because those are good potential partners for me down the road. So I use a co-citation tool like I use Hub Finder, but you know, if you don't buy the SEO book suite of tools, you can find another one within someone else's suite of tools. So that's the next thing I do. I always say you got to put some money out for tools. It ain't cheap, but you know, it's an expensive doing business. So keep all the receipts for your taxes when you get down to doing your tax work. From that point on, there's two things that I do, and then the tools really dictate the tactic afterward. So the two things I do is I go throughout my niche and I subscribe to every single newsletter that I find within the top 50 search results. So the pages come up and they have newsletters on them. I subscribe to those newsletters so that I'm getting them. So I know what news is being broadcast by the sites that are the industry leaders in my niche, right? And I keep that kind of off to the side because I want to know what's going on, but I also want to know what people are writing about, and I want to know what these newsletters are pushing out, because if they're running promos or if they're, you know, introducing new products or something, then I want to know about it. The second thing I do is the same thing with the blogs. I take whatever my keywords are and I go look for the top 50 blogs in my niche. I use Feedly. Feedly. That's my RSS reader. I love it because it does lots of very cool things on there. And I used to use Google Reader. I used to really like that one, but since they took it away, I have gone over to Feedly. There's many of them out there. Find one that you like. Find one that turns you on and start using it, because you can set them so that they come back with content by keyword or by the type of site. You can move all that information around so that you're constantly keeping up with what's going on. Once I determine who they are, and if I'm really serious about working this industry that I'm in, I will start commenting on those blogs. You know, I pick a handful of them and I comment. I don't drop any links. I just comment so that people get to know me. And I look at their blog rolls, and I perhaps, if anybody influential is linking out to someone else on a blog roll, that's a good thing. So I will also keep them into my stable, add them to my Feedly, but I'll comment on them as well. Once I've been around for a while and I have content, or they see me and they know me, I might ask to be added to their blog roll. Keep in mind that when people have mobile phones, you know, not all websites are compatible with mobile phones, but for the most part, you know, they are. People who are serious about being online, it's a good thing, you know, to be seen on somebody's homepage under a blog roll link in that regard. So those are the things that I do before I even get started, you know, because from that I'm going to have gleaned an awful lot of competitive information. Not only by the fact that I just go to Google and I see who's listed in the top 50, because Google's done the work for me. I don't have to worry about why those people are ranking. They're ranking. I don't really give a shit why they rank. They just rank well. And until I really need to know something specific, I don't go and I spend a lot of time backlinking their links. I start looking to see who's already there so that I can take advantage of that visibility. Because that's really big. Now, right now, there's phrases that are being thrown around out there. You know, for this, it's called top influencers, or finding your media influencer, your niche influencers, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't make any difference, but that's really what you need to do. You need to get on somebody else's coattails initially, and if you make a little bit of noise and you're polite, and you thoughtfully answer and you thoughtfully engage these people, whether it's on Twitter or on their blogs, mostly on their blogs. People understand that Twitter is noise, okay? So interacting with somebody on Twitter is less important than it is on their blog. Their blog is their moneymaker. Their site is their moneymaker, and that's really where it counts. So I would spend more time doing that than I would on Twitter, personally. But like I said, your tools do your tactics. From there, depending on the type of tool, and there's lots more of them. You know, a lot of people pay for the broken link finder tools that our friend Garrett French owns, Citation Labs, or the guys at Ontolo, whichever one you want to use. I personally just have phrases that I've learned over the years that I use to find them. I don't spend an awful lot of time on broken links because everybody else is out there looking for broken links too. And sometimes you spend a lot on those, or you spend a lot of time on those, and you don't always have the return. So I usually just set up, excuse me, a handful of phrases, and I go looking for broken links. But that's another basic tactic that you want to take advantage of initially to get yourself started and to get your name out there, just to let people know. Say, excuse me, I apologize. You know, I noticed on this page that this link is kaput, and you know, whatever phrase and or letters that you send out to get people to change links for you on your broken links. I call that all foundational link building. That's all the basic stuff. And again, your tools then dictate your content. Once you start using these tools like BuzzSumo, and you find out the top content by keyword phrase that's being shared, liked, and pinned, for example, you can start creating that content for your site and start promoting it off of your blog in the same manner. So those are the types of things, really your tactics follow your tools. But I think the number one thing, the very, very number one tactic that I suggest to people that they spend time and money on is paying for a membership in their local association. Now, you talked earlier about paying for memberships in, excuse me, just one second.
Yeah, you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, and that's certainly, I've always found another one in addition to the Chamber of Commerce is if there's a regulatory body, if there's, you know, an association of such and such a profession that you're in, that's as good as a Chamber of Commerce as well.
Yeah, we've got a lot of success with the building industry association. There's one in every city, and you know, you get the plumbers, the electrical guys, you get the tradesmen, you get so many different people kind of going to these association meetings, and it's like what Deborah was just saying before. She just went. It's, you know, it's about building relationships. You know, on Twitter or wherever you are, and trying to find out where your audience is, if they're on Facebook, if they're on Twitter, but you're building those relationships with influencers. I mean, I hate that word as well, but you know, you've got to start that dialogue and just start trying to communicate with people.
Yeah,
and sharing stuff.
Also, I often say that, you know, a lot of people miss their supply chain. They're so busy thinking of going towards the customer that they sometimes forget that there's some really valuable links from their suppliers. You know, if you've got a company that makes things in plastic, and you've got some petrochemical companies who supply you, and you've been a great customer to them, they may be willing to link to you and talk about you, and you may be able to get a story from them about, you know, how they are helping you to do this wonderful product. And sometimes there's some very interesting stories that you can get by looking the other way in the chain.
You know, Ammon, on that very topic, before I even knew what SEO was, I was a plant manager for a custom molder down here in Tijuana. They had a relationship with a well, I can't mention the customer, but it's a huge specialty catalog firm, and they hired us to design and develop a particular new product for them, and we ended up building the molds for them, and then we had to test 57 different resins before we could find the right polycarbonate, clear polycarbonate, that would meet all the stress tests. GE Chemical, who is the largest resin supplier in the world, they managed to come up with one. They actually designed a new resin for the project. And when we released this thing, we ran it through tests. We beat the stress test by like anywhere from 30 to 70% on all the tests. And then we did a press release. The customer, of course, in their catalog did a nice write-up. It just happened that the day that the customer dropped off their newsletter with their write-up on it to me, my GE sales rep popped in. So I ran a copy of it. I gave it to him. And the next day, he called me and said, "You're going to be in our newsletter." They sent out 130,000 copies of that newsletter with full information. In the next 6 months, we probably pulled in over a dozen custom mold fabrication orders just off of that one project. So those relationships, man, they're gold. And it's not really a matter, some folks call it your Rolodex, but I mean sometimes it's just serendipity. Sometimes it's a personal relationship, but there are business relationships. And like Carlos is saying, you go to your association meeting, maybe you have anything to do with builders or with contractors or suppliers to those, but you might meet somebody that does, and something clicks, and it can be gold.
Yeah. One thing that one of our regular viewers noted is that these tools can be quite expensive. On this, I have to say it's a little bit like a chartered accountant. Yeah, it can be expensive, but unless you're doing something massively wrong, this is an investment and it pays for itself pretty quick. It's one of those things you spend a little to make a lot.
One of the best tools out there is a very, very small one-time fee. Won't mention what the tool is, but may do in the comments on the event page after. But I'm a big fan of tools, and it's like what Debra's saying. When any new client, for those who've got agencies or they're freelancing, it's all about doing the research and the preparation, and that's what Debra's is saying there. She looks at who's coming up for a particular phrase, and then downstream she'll probably do backlinks and find out who's linking to them. But it's all about research preparation. If you don't do the research and analysis, you're never going to be able to help that client or to help your site. If we're talking about your site, I just want to quickly add a few sometimes when you're dealing with either a client with no budget or you've got no budget. I was about to say earlier, sometimes like working for big, Fortune 100 companies, you feel like you've got a bit of a luxury that you've got a budget to play with. But it's really just a different game. It's just a different challenge. If you've got no money, then you have to just get creative and in a different way. Luckily, unfortunately, we've had a few clients, Fortune 100 clients that have had a budget. And like one of those, for example, is a big aluminum manufacturer, and we came up with this idea of kind of having an engineering design competition, whereby you went out to all the engineering departments across like 1,000 universities in the US, and they all took it up. We did a nice press release, but they all then, on their engineering departments, all these beautiful .edu, well, this is back a few years where EDUs actually. But it was great publicity. It was great publicity just from a human visitor's perspective, and that worked out wonders. And then we're working with some financial clients. And you're thinking, all right, how do we get some of their product pages to have more links? And then you start looking, and this is where it should start as well. Is okay, is there something that could be improved about the product? Why is some of these websites that talk about savings accounts and how good savings accounts are not linking to our client? Okay, maybe the product's not good. Maybe the interest rate needs to be, we need to get some kind of promotional interest rate there. And so when you start to look at the product and how you can improve whatever it is you're putting out, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a checking account, or whatever it is, you have to try to make the quality of that product or piece that you're putting out there as good as possible, so that people will link to it. If you can somehow get the product people to increase the rate of a checking account or a savings account, then that's going to get mentioned everywhere in financial forums. If you come out with a quality blog post, it might get on the Moz Top 10 or whatever, you're going to get links coming in. So it does come back to quality, the quality of what you're putting out there.
Yeah, we've got a question from Samuel Scott, who is asking, if you want good links, should you hire a link builder or a PR agency today? Deborah, you want to take first stab at that? I know my thoughts.
You know, a good link building agency should have someone who is familiar with how to work that part of the media. And it really depends too on the level that you want to play in the media. If you have a national presence and you're trying to build a national brand, then it's probably going to behoove you to hire a publicist or someone who is you know, really focused in that particular industry that knows how to promote that product. And you can find them. They're publicists that have, you know, different niche, how you say it, and they're specialized in those types of things. So that's what I would do. If you're just looking to build links, you would probably just stay with a link builder. And if I can also say this without making it, this is not a negative comment in the least, but you have to stop thinking about link building and media relations in the same vein. They're really not. They're really, really different. And if you're only thinking about doing media relations or public relations for links, then you're probably going down the wrong road, you know, for that, and you're not going to get the exposure that you want. So think about it separately. If you're serious about getting media attention, hire someone that's what they do. They're a publicist. You know, you can hire someone that has a name. You know, I endorse and support celebrity endorsements quite a bit. You know, hiring people that have a name out there, not just, you know, the Kim Kardashians of the world, but people within an industry that have a name. Can you tell I'm not a fan? You know, that have a name. I mean, there's somebody in the concrete industry or the steel business or the pharmaceutical. There's somebody there that has a reputation for hire that will help you promote your site to the media. You can go to an expert witness directory. You can look, you know, in your association, which I want to get back to that point, if it's okay, Carlos, and you guys, to talk about associations, because this is a huge tactic that not a lot of people do. Find a person that has the influence. Link building firms, there are a lot of link building firms out there, a lot of good link building firms out there, but they don't have the focus, you know, on the media. So if I can just real quick say something about associations, and we were talking earlier about chambers and associations. Chambers are typically geographically focused, and if you're geographically focused, awesome, rock on, you know, join all the chambers that you possibly can in your area. But for the most of us who operate virtually online, not so much, okay? We don't have one of those. So what we do then is recommend associations. And if we go back to a second, you know, we talked about allocating money as a small business owner for tools. This should definitely be part of your arsenal after Yahoo, and your tools is allocating money to pay for an association fee. First of all, associations are groups of people who have business interests the same as you. So you join the association of automobiles, for example, something to do with the automotive industry. Everyone else in that association is somehow connected to that industry, which means they are people, they have a relevance to you, okay? So that part of the algorithm that Google is, you know, supporting on about relevance, that part of it is met with associations. It's really smart nowadays to do things offline to generate online links. You don't want to let people know what you're doing. First of all, from your competitor standpoint, they can emulate what you do. That sucks, right? You do all this time and energy, and then they come along and do the same thing. So you can make it less easy for them by doing that stuff offline, and that's where the associations come into play. When you're a member of an association, you have access to those directories of people that belong to the association, and it's also a great point of commonality. You can say, hey, you and I belong to association A and B, you know, and we're new to the association. We're trying to get our name out there. You know, here's 20% off for the next time you purchase something from my site, whatever. You can come up with different promotions. They have newsletters. They do trade shows. The biggest plus, and you can all of those things, by the way, to gain links and to gain business for your website. The number one way that an association can help you is the fact that associations are staffed with professional people. And if you don't have money for a publicist, they do. They have someone that promotes their association. There are professional people. They usually call them public relations managers. Go to the public relations manager and tell him or her you need help. Say, hey, listen, I'm a member of the association. I'm trying to get this new product out. Can you share your media list with me? Even if you have to purchase it from her, you're going to pay a whole hell of a lot less than you are if you go to Bacon's or Burl's Loose or someone else that you have to pay for a media list. So go to those people and pick their brains. Find out where are they promoting the association, because those are the newspapers and the magazines and the outlets that you can use to also get attention and to get exposure. The public relations manager of the association is only going to participate with you, of course, if you belong to the association. So allocate your funds. The bigger the association, the more opportunity you have to get links. And I don't have it handy, and I'm in another screen right now, but I did this huge blog post one time about an association promotion that we did with someone that joined the association and actually worked it. We worked that association, and after several months, we had several hundred links from members within the association. It was awesome. I'll find it when someone else is talking, and I'll post it.
If you pop it in the thread later, because we're just about out of time for today, so we're going to sort of get to wrap up. But if you pop that in the comments, we'll all catch that later. Carlos, do you want to take us through to the wrap up?
Yeah. It's like I said to you before, Deborah. It's great to have somebody on that is kind of skilled in this area. And I think you're one of the first people that have come on and said as well that I'm going to do a little bit of shameless self-promotion of the ISOOSI directory here. But I've always been a huge fan of directories. I've owned directories in the 90s. I've owned some and sold some, and it got to the stage where they were ripped apart, and not just by Google, a bandwagon of other people as well, and some rightly so. And one of the reasons that we developed the ISOOSI directory to what it is we didn't want people just coming just to pay for a review, or just to add the link, basically paying for a link. We wanted them to kind of put their website in our directory, our search system, our research engine, because folks were actually using it, because they were going to get found, not for the link equity at all, but because we built a really good blog up, we built quality, a team of quality writers were contributing, Amon's been helping us, and all kinds of good things are going on the site. And if the more things that were going on the site, the businesses would come and add their website in, because it gave them an extra place to be found. So it wasn't, that was kind of the whole concept of integrating all the different search systems into ISOOSI and Google, Bing, and YouTube and Instagram and all that. Was we felt that the more things that we could add in, and we still got the review process and everything else like that, but we wanted to do something different in the directory arena that hadn't been done before, so that people, they'd still get the link, but they would get more than just the link. So hearing you also talk about the fact that Yahoo, and you've got Best of the Web, Great Directory, and other ones, and you've not lost faith in them, is kind of, I'm in definitely the same opinion as you. We do local citations. We work with Whitespark, and other companies for that. And there's still a lot of things that we do from a link building perspective. We're not building links so much as building signals now. So I'm a signal builder. That's what I am. A link attractor, a signal builder, and maybe next year I'll change my name again.
One of the really nice things about directories is that it's not just a link, it's a co-citation. A directory is listing some of the best businesses out there, and your name is amongst them, and your link is next to some of those great businesses. So, that alone is an extra part to the link that's worth more than just the link itself. For my little sort of wrap-up comment, I would say I'll take something back to something I was saying in the comments of Eric Enge's show earlier tonight. It's really important that it's going to be a lot easier to build links if you've got a solid, unique selling proposition in the first place. If you've got a USP, if you stand out, it's going to be a lot easier to be remembered and be linked to. If you're just run-of-the-mill, if you're just part of the herd, it's a lot more difficult to stand out, and that's where you are having to create artificial uniqueness by using unique contacts that you've got that they haven't, to make up for the fact that your product is just the same as everybody else's. So really do think about what is unique about your company, because that's going to stand you in good stead for all of your marketing, but especially for building links. The more unique you are, the more remarkable you are. And read Purple Cow by Seth Godin. Bill?
Right. Shannon asked earlier about tools and their cost, and how that can be difficult for freelancers or solo practitioners. And Debra mentioned that Google itself is a great free tool, and described her immersion process into the world of a specific niche or field or marketing area. And I think that's true. See who ranks well for the terms that are important to you, for the areas that you want to do business in, and look at what they're talking about. Save those to RSS. Get involved in commenting on blogs. Build relationships. It's free. It may take a little bit of time, but using tools like an RSS feeder can help speed that process up. Once you get a sense of the lay of the land, you can start putting together a strategy for yourself concerning the kinds of things that you want to be known for on your blog, the types of things you like to write about, the people who may help you promote those types of things on social networks, on their blogs. So build those links by building relationships, by getting a sense of the market, the area that you're in, and you can start that off with a free tool like Google.
I would say, I would follow that up with a here, because I think the idea of links and reputation and relationships, they all work hand in hand. Whether you're talking like Deb was talking about, getting journalists to respond to you when you'd like to get some coverage for yourself or for a client. If you send them every garbage idea you want to promote, like you said, they're going to learn to ignore you. They're going to look at their inbox and say, oh my God, it's her again. So you send them quality. You send them something worthwhile. You also go and find what they're writing. You do a little bit of camaraderie on it. You go support what they're doing. When they put something up that's really worthy of reading, you promote it a little bit. That does a couple of things. First of all, it's a little bit of tit for tat, plus also there's the fact that it firmly establishes in their mind what your area of interest is. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're someone to be reckoned with in their mind. Building the relationships is what it's all about. And, that's one of the reasons that even though I
Lost Doc.
highly resistant in the beginning, I have
No, he's gone again. Let's.
And the beauty of that building, for instance, I like semantic markup. I like the whole semantic world. If I'm hanging out with the David Amerlins day after day, there's some co-citation there. Whether there's any value in it from a search ranking standpoint or not, I don't care. It's establishing me as having interest in that particular area. It's all a matter of who you know and what you're saying. Be constant and consistent and be reliable. If you got an opinion and you can't support it with fact, then simply say, this is my opinion. Here's why I think this, but it's just my opinion. If you can support it with fact, don't just say, I know this to be a fact. Give them a link and prove it. Build your credibility and reputation with the people that are seeing your comments. And you're going to earn more links that way. They'll, again, just like that journalist, they'll begin to think of you as someone that knows what he's talking about.
Mm.
Yep, great stuff, Doc. You're so right. You know, building these relationships, the way to think about it is just a factor of amplification. It's like you said about hanging around with, whether it's David Ameland or whoever, you know, they circle you, you circle them, you're in the circles, and or networked, or whatever platform, if you share something and they take an interest, they're going to share it, and then you know, whatever you put out there has been amplified. So great stuff. Deborah, final wrap up.
One of the questions that comes up every time I speak at an SES or an SMX is, what's the best thing that I can do? And the answer is, there's no single answer for that. And depending on the industry that you're in, there's probably a number of things that you should be doing. It's never a good idea to do just one thing. Whether it's from a marketing standpoint or an algorithmic standpoint, if all you do are directory links, or if all you do are blog posts, whatever, you are going to leave a footprint that is going to be easily followed both by the search engine and also by your competitors. And since now people are being outed as easily by their competitors as they are by search engines, you don't need to be leaving any kind of trail, if you will, for people to follow. Look at your big picture when you sit down, and it sounds a little daunting, but if you sit down on both Bing and Google and you compare results, you will find that between the two engines, they usually share most of the same search results in the top 10. After 10 is when they change a little bit, because they both have different emphasis on things. But if it's in the top 10 on Google and the top 10 on Bing, chances are those are really good sites that you want to do some research on, and you want to find out what it is that they are doing, whether that be from a marketing standpoint, an advertising standpoint, a PR standpoint, whatever. I set alert results for those top 10 sites. Some people use Google Alerts. I don't. I use a private alert service. But I have those results come back to me. I subscribe to those feeds, and I subscribe to their newsletters and get that information so that you can figure out what it is that they're doing. Sometimes the work has already been done for you. You're just so overwhelmed by the fact that you need links that you don't stop back and take a look at what someone else is already doing, to where you can easily pick up the same types of links or the same types of advertising. So take a look around. It's not just about backlinks. Most people focus on backlinks. That's okay, but that's only one part of the pie. And remember, the pie on Google and Bing has gotten much, much bigger now. Anchor text is still important. It's still the #1 issue, but there's so many more things now that have come into it. Look around, and don't just depend on one thing. And whatever you do, don't buy those packages, you know, for $29.99. You can get bookmarking and directory links and all of that. Those things are just, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So spend
Even
some
if they
time.
promise to submit you to 1,000 search engines and 1,700 directories?
Those are not good for you. Not good for you at all. Unless you're doing throwaway sites. If you're doing burn and churn, that's a whole different conversation. But if you want to just, you know, if this website puts food on your table and pays for your mortgage, then those are not things that I would do.
No.
So that's what I would suggest to anyone. Don't just depend on one thing. Look for things that already have a massive audience built in. You want to tap in. If you're not comfortable paying money out for an association, go find a couple of forums that you can join. Not all of them, you know, are private. A lot of forums, and there's a freaking forum for everything out there. I swear to God, I have found forums for apple pie bakers, you know, down to zoologists. There's a forum for everything. Get involved, because what you'll find are people who are passionate about that, or who rank well, or who understand the marketing of that particular niche are in the forums. and you can take a look at it, what they're doing, and follow them there. Number one place I go for writers is a forum. You want a good writer? Go to the forum and find out who's a super moderator, who's a super talker, or what do we call it, poster, contributor on the forum. Those people, pay them, they know what they're talking about, and that's a super place to find that stuff, in addition to the associations. If I had to spend money anywhere after my link building tools, I would pay for an association membership and work that angle of the marketing first and foremost, because once you do that and you have also the tools, not only the membership, but you have the professional people behind the association to help you, sometimes you don't need to pay for anything else. So, my 2 cents.
Yep, the network is always, part of your friendship.
Sure.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. I know we've gone a little bit over time, but I think everyone agrees it was 100% worth it. Next week, we've got Dixon Jones coming on to talk about Majestic SEO, not just for those who are interested in using it as a tool, although, as Deborah says, it's, to my mind, the best out there at the moment, but also all the lessons he's learned in building that tool, because in the way it evaluates links, there's a wealth of learning about algorithms and about weighting links and understanding how authority and stuff flows. So I know it's going to be a thrilling show with Dixon next week, and I hope to see all our audience there. Carlos, do you want to sign us out?
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we shall see you again at the same time next week, 3 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday, for another great hangout again with Dixon Jones next week. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody. Thanks Deborah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye guys.
Thank you.